Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. I'm excited to get started again. Hey, Brett, good to have you in here. Definitely be throwing questions my way, Brett, or if you've got particular topics, really curious on these lies as we go forward, right? How to make them engaging and work out well. I'm actually going to take a excuse me, I'm going to take a shot at a couple of topics today. In fact, let me see if I can share it here. And I'll come back to this again in a minute. But a couple of topics I'm going to be dealing with is like the way to be able to make offers focused. And so I was dealing with somebody who has a capability statement that's pretty crowded. And I want to show how I whittle that down into something that can be focused to get in the door better and then move out. Let me come back here as I'm just letting some people coming in. By the way, if you're just joining, go ahead and put your company name and where you're at. Let us know. That's always good to be able to track. And right now, I'm trying to pull up a PDF I want to share. Of course, it's in my let me see if I can find it. It's in my email, and I shut my email down so it doesn't get open. But let me see. Will this one open for me? No. Okay. So if you're just getting started, I'm just trying to find a PDF I want to share today. I'll come right back to you in 1 second. You know, Brett, one day the most out of site visits because you do a lot of that. And that's really good real stuff in there. I see we got in. Be right with you in 1 second. I just want to let you know, if you're dropping in, this is the Neil McDonnell GovCon Show, where I go live daily thinking out loud about how federal buyers actually make decisions and how industry, people like you, win work. So as we go forward, if you've got any questions, definitely throw them in. I'm going to follow an agenda. Let me find that little guy and share it again. I'm going to follow an agenda that is kind of along, or a soft agenda, right? So I'm going to go along in this particular way. But these are some of the things I'm going to be talking about today. And one of my primary things I wanted to do by going live streaming instead of just live training, where I just pick a topic, train it out completely, and then 30 minutes later I'm gone. These are longer streams on purpose so that I can engage and answer questions. So if you have questions as we go along, put the word question at the beginning of a chat and then ask your question, and I'll respond to that. But again, did want to say hello to Brett. And hey, Paul, good to see you in here for Savannah. Is that New York City, Reginald? I didn't know you were up there. Jay, good to see you again. Charles, hey, Charles. Ramona from right near me in Maryland here. Candace, good to see you. It's funny. I almost said, where's Chicagoland? I'm like, oh, Chicago. It's like, okay, I got to get my eyes working better. Good to see you in here. Patricia, good to see you in here. So today I'm going to cover down on some things. I definitely want to do questions, but I wanted to share some LinkedIn tips that I'll go into, some tips on just how I manage LinkedIn. And then I want to go through my feed on LinkedIn to show you how do I make LinkedIn work for me to engage with people, keep my network warm, and continue to build relationships, et cetera, to find interesting information that could be useful to me. Like yesterday, I'd shared seeing something in my feed about an RFI. And it's like, okay, so I went down the rabbit hole on that. But today, I'm actually going to show you how I just scroll through the feed and what makes me stop and how I manage my feed so I can begin to start seeing more and more relevant stuff in there. I sometimes hear people complain about their feeds, their social media feeds, but I'm like, well, are you managing the feed so that you don't complain about what's in there, but you control what's in there? An example is if somebody is in my feed and they're constantly sharing stuff about, how to make dinner. I'm like, well, that's not why I'm in LinkedIn. So I don't want to see that. Well, I don't get mad at them. I don't go, oh, how come they're putting it in there? I just go to the button that says unfollow and I unfollow them. So I want to show you that type of stuff today. I'm still connected with them. I'm still in the network, but I'm not seeing their content because I don't need to. It's not really what I want to see. Just seeing more people join us. Hey, Matthew, Gloria, good to see you. Is it D'Amica White, Virginia, and Nina back again? Good to see you. Okay, so again, if you're just getting in here, my name is Neil McDonnell. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I spent 20 years as a GovCon small business owner after I got out of the Army. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. And for the last 4 years, I've done 1,000 training sessions that are pretty tactical in what they are. And so now I'm doing the Neil McDonnell GovCon Show, where it's designed to be just thinking out loud around government contracting and what's popping up from the day. And so you can see from the agenda I got laid out here that this is what I want to cover down on. Okay, so before we get started, I wanted to use a tip, and I'm just going to start embracing all the books that I have sitting all around my desk. The 7 Habits for Highly Effective People is by Stephen Covey. Dr. Stephen Covey is my all-time favorite book. And sometime I got to put together a newsletter article that says, these are my top business books, because there's a lot of books that just pop out and it's like, oh, that's a really good book. But there's some books, that are the best. It's when you go back to them over and over again. It's not that you got a good impression off of reading it once. Stephen Covey's book, I read that once a year, and I've been reading it since, you can see how, I don't know if you can see how yellow it is from the sun and everything else. But the first time I read this, I signed my books to remind myself that I read it. I'll tell you that story another time. Actually, I might even tell you just now for the fun of it. But first time I read that book was 1997. And so for some people, I read that book before you were born, and I read it every single year. And I learned something, or I'm reminded of something every single year. Stephen Covey was a big fan of Benjamin Franklin, and Benjamin Franklin had these 13 principles, whatever guiding principles that he had, that he would rotate through, trying to get better and better at it. And one of the things I like about Benjamin Franklin is that he never hit that ultimate goal of living all those principles or virtues to the T, right? Or doing it in a perfect way, but he strived for it. And that's kind of how I like my life to be. I don't want to pretend like I'm going to be hitting perfection, but I'd like to keep working towards that path, right? I was going to tell you, the reason I sign my books is because I read a lot of history books and read a lot of political books, not on politics of the day, but a little bit of history, especially recent politic history, meaning recent last 100 years kind of thing. And I always try to read both sides of anything so that I'm putting my opinions are mine, shaped by information. Anyways, I read a lot of history books, and I would be classified from the Civil War period as a Northerner, not a Southerner. But I still read both sides, and I appreciate what's going on. And I once read a book, it had to be at least that big, and you're talking about 500, 600 pages, on Stonewall Jackson. And I was doing other stuff, and a year and a half later or something, I was asking my wife, I'm like, I'm looking for a book to read on my bookshelf. I'm like, I wonder if I've ever read this book before. And I didn't even actually say that. I said, I'm thinking about reading this book. She's like, you already read it. I'm like, what? Yeah, you loved it. You wouldn't shut up about it. I'm like, oh. And I still have the lessons of that book in there, but I couldn't recall reading it, which is a really interesting thing about my mind. But so I like to sign my books just to keep myself remembering about that. But the reason I held up that book, 7 Habits for Highly Effective People, is I wanted to point out a habit that I love, and as it relates to what I'm going to be talking about today, some of the things I'll talk about today. But the habit is begin with the end in mind. And when you begin with the end in mind, you've set your destination and said, this is where I want to go, or this is what I want to achieve. And then you can back it all up. In the old days, for those of you who don't remember the old days, we didn't have GPS, we had maps. And when I would drive from California to Washington, D.C., for example, well, I knew I was going to Washington, D.C., but that wasn't a quick trip like flying. You had many things going on. And so when I had the destination in mind, then you start planning out the route. And then when you plan out the route, you actually were paying attention to the gas stations and the hotels along the way. and trying to understand where you were going to go, how far you could go in a day. And for business, it's that same kind of thing, right? Whether you're looking out in a 1 year or 5 year strategy and saying, this is the revenue goals I want to achieve, then you start backing it up. It's like, well, where am I getting it from? Which agencies am I getting it from? What am I selling? I mean, exactly what am I trying to sell? And when you start doing that and you back it all up and you're getting into smaller and smaller level tasks, when you're getting closer and closer to like this moment, then now you've got it all there. You've begun with the end in mind. You know where you're going, and you know where you're going quarterly, things like that. Then you start executing. And that's why I really like that that habit. It aligns to what I'm trying to do. Even today with my live streaming here, I'm going to be here for 2 hours. I'll answer your questions. I'm going to go through some topics as we go along, like I got here. And this is my end in mind. By the end, I want to talk about these things, or I want to try to get to as many of them as I can. And so as we go along, I've got some focused things I'll talk about, but I also want to talk about your questions and the things that are pressing. So if you're just getting here, again, this is the Neil McDonnell GovCon Show, where I go live daily thinking out loud about how federal buyers actually make decisions and how we in the industry win work. So as we go forward, if you've got questions, just be selfish. I want to get this question answered by Neil, kind of thing, right? Put the word question in front of your chat so that I know there's a question in there, because you might be chatting back and forth and it's hard for me to read everything, but I don't want to miss the questions. So seeing greetings from the DMV, Nina. And so let's start up with a question here from Brett. And actually, let me go here. And by the way, I'm an amateur producer on my own show, trying to figure out how to hit all the bells and whistles. So here's a question from Brett. An initial question I have given today's agenda. What do you recommend as an appropriate process time commitment for focusing our offer? Oh, that's good. How much analysis should we perform, researching stakeholders, POCs, agency strategies, docs, etc.? Brett, I need a little clarity on the question just to make sure. What do you recommend as an appropriate process time commitment? Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, how long should I spend thinking about my focused offer? And Brett, tell me if that's, I'll try to jump to the bottom of the chat and see if you tell me I've got that question right. But I will tell you, there's one of my favorite ways of talking to people about who want to start a new business. What I say to them is spend no more than 24 hours. 24 hours is a long time, but 24 hours to pick a company name. People are like, well, it really matters. It does not matter. It doesn't matter what your company's called. No one knows you. No one's going to know you for the next 6 months. I mean, even if you get out there and you say, my name is, Nickelback or whatever, then it's not, it doesn't really matter. You have to build your reputation and go into the name. The other thing is you can easily change your company name. Hey, we rebranded from ABC to zoology.com or zoology LLC or something, whatever. You can change things later. So I always say, don't spend a lot of time. If we're talking about, Brett, how much time, so going with that, how much time should I be thinking about what is our focused offer and talking about it internally? This is okay, good. I saw you confirming that. This is something that really kind of drives me nuts when I get into a company that has more and more leaders inside there. They spend too long. And that's what, you don't need to be doing that. You need to look, and I'll show you today how I'm going to do this, but you should, in my opinion, you should get this done in a week. If you can't get this done in a week, the biggest sign to you is that you've been running your company without any kind of clarity. Because if you had clarity, people would be able to get written down the focused offer right there inside of a week. But if people bounce around, it's too hard. And so, or it's too focused out there. So I would give no more than a week for this exercise. I've done this literally in the last 2 weeks with 2 different companies. And one of them I'll show you today. But I've looked at what they sold, and I said, well, look, you got all these things, and I'm going to explain later. But one company, for example, I'm like, well, you're telling me you're really good at SharePoint. And that's the same as my last company, so it was convenient. But I'm like, you're saying you're good at this, but you're talking about project management, you're talking about cybersecurity and all these other things. But that's not your core competency. That's not your focused offer. Your focused offer is Microsoft SharePoint services, basically. And I said these other things are enablers. And one of the problems we have is that we take something like project management for SharePoint related projects, and we slide project management up to the same level as SharePoint. Now we're saying we're a SharePoint company and a project management. It's like, no, you're not. You're not doing earned value management and living and breathing program project management. It's a whole different thing. And for most of us, when we see that, we're like, oh, yeah. We're not trying to be a program project management company that way. We're just saying we've got those skills. Well, that's why I use the term enabler. You have cybersecurity or AI or some of these things. They could be enablers to the SharePoint focus. Another company, I might slide AI on the top. But so coming back to that question, spend just a week. Everybody should say, what do you think we sell? And then you should put it all there and go, what are we best at? And what are we getting paid for? So hopefully that answers that question there for you, Brett, and for everybody else as well. I like those type of questions because it's not just for Brett, it's for all of us, even for me. Like as I try to think, what's my focused offer to the people I'm trying to reach? Hey, Susan, Joseph, good to see you guys in here. Laura, good to see you in. Well, so my PhD friend, you have to tell me how to pronounce your name because I have no idea and I really want to pronounce your name. So it's Tsige. So tell me how I can pronounce that. Give me a phonetic way of saying it. And then we're all going to learn that. Good, Ramona. Everybody knows a map out there, right? By the way, somebody just said something, Paul Anderson. I appreciate it. People let others know if you're open to connecting on LinkedIn, because the beauty of coming into the trainings or the live streams with me is that not only can you hear some of the guidance I'm trying to share out there, but you're also able to connect with other people. Chris Moffitt, good to see you. Elizabeth's got a question, and so let's go ahead and tackle that. I'm going to tackle some questions for a few minutes here as we go forward. It's a great way to get going. Can I talk about FPDS going away, and where can we find this information via SAM? Is this a future demo you might conduct? Elizabeth, good question. So for everybody, letting you know, FPDS is a legacy tool. I love it. It's pure data, and it's basically all the government contract awards. Remember, I put the word basically there because it doesn't have things like super classified stuff. It doesn't have really small purchases, but for the most part, it has everything the government buys. So it's a great repository of information. On February 24th, according to FPDS.gov, they're shutting down the GUI or the website part of FPDS, and it completely shut off a little later, so nobody has access to it. But basically, for all of us on February 24th, we lose it. That data is already in SAM, according to SAM. If you don't know this, SAM.gov was envisioned to pull all these extra tools in and to have one tool that everybody can go to. And the idea is great, a system of record there for everything related to, in our case, government contracting. The second part of the question is, where can we find this information via SAM? You can find it in stages, but and I definitely am doing training and a demo, but you can go into the data tabs. I can't remember. Actually, let me just pull it up and I'll tell you really quick. SAM.gov. Let me pull this guy out here. And let me share my screen for 1 second. Okay, so I should be sharing SAM.gov right now. If you go into SAM.gov and you go into search, so one of the first things, they've got all sorts of different tabs here. I actually, I don't like SAM. The data is awesome, but the interface is not user-friendly, and that's why I don't like it. I'm actually going to build a user-friendly, a free user-friendly interface to SAM. So it grabs SAM's data, but it brings it in a way that most of us would want it quick and easy. But I'm clicking in here on contract opportunities. So one way you could find some of those previous awards, et cetera, is just come in here and look for award type, and here awarded notice. And that's one way to find information. So right here, you can see there's 11,000. And if you come down a little lower and check inactive as well, now you're looking at 1.5 million, but that's not even remotely all of them. But that's one way to see some of the data, and it's something to track on. And then the other way is going into the data repository services. And this is the part I'll go in and start teaching you. So in the data bank, there's different reports that you can do. And a lot of it is about building your own reports for what you want. This is what I mean in particular that I don't really like SAM, because that's a very sophisticated skill set for the government to force small businesses to learn, or anybody, even largest, to learn. I mean, We're not all data analysts who can go in there and use tools like this. And so it should be a lot more intuitive, and I'm going to do that. But the information is in there. My goal, Elizabeth, and maybe you can hold me to this, is I really want to build that tool I was talking about, a free interface. It's just going to be on my website or something by February 24th. So it's available to us. Okay, let me hide that. Good, really good question. That question is going to come up a lot. So, hi, Annette, Candace. Oh, Candace, 100% I would recommend 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. And I would encourage anybody who's going to get it and on the audio. It's 14 hours, but the narrative that happens within really sinks in deep to me. And I think you might like this as well, but it sinks in deep to me when I'm listening to it compared to just when I'm reading it. An example is when he's telling this story about paradigm shifts in how you see something that is. And then when you get enough sufficient, more relevant information, you have this paradigm shift. And I don't want to spoil it by telling you like one of the most powerful stories in there, but it's just, it just rocks your core. And then and it's kind of like this partial experience on a metro or something. But then when you align it to how would this impact, like how I have a relationship with a federal buyer and things like that. And so I would encourage it because the stories are so great in there. And then I saw a question up here. Hi, Annette. Okay, so let me pull this question up. I've been accepted into the VA Pathfinder Innovation Repository for small business offering facility-based healthcare solutions. What are the most effective next steps to convert a repository listing, which is basically a supplier portal over there, into actual acquisition movement within the VA? And so let me broaden that question. I just registered in a supplier portal. What do I do next? Like, how do I get visibility? Well, I would begin to follow up with people and say, hey, I'm in the supplier portal. I wanted to just pick your brain. So in the VA in particular, they have more than 20 or 30 small business professionals. Way more than that. And I would reach out to the ones that relate to what you're trying to do. So I know Annette, for example, would benefit engaging with people at the hospital level of the VA, and there's 150 of those. And those hospitals are managed by roughly 20, 25 small business professionals. So Annette, that's the thing I would do is one at a time, I would reach out to them and say, hey, I'm in Pathfinder. Can I get 10 minutes of your time to ask you about next steps? The thing everybody has to keep in mind is sometimes you run into people like in the VA who will send you back this stock email. When somebody sends you a stock email, just treat it like it was all relevant. Like sometimes people will literally respond to an email where you say you have experience in the government, and they will tell you, make sure you're registered in SAM. Like, all right, so apparently you're using less than AI. You're just using pure template back. Well, don't get mad at that. Instead, embrace it and go, okay, I'll play the game. You threw the ball back to me. I would come back and say, thanks for your guidance. We're registered in SAM. I did this thing. Love to have a follow-up. But you want to get in and get the advice now. So get that first meeting with the small business professional and talk to them about, hey, I'm inside the Pathfinder portal. How is it usually used? Who's accessing that? What would you recommend? Because it's one thing for me to give you generic advice across all supplier portals. It's another to look at the VA, to Annette's question, and go, what should I do now that I'm in here? How do I get real traction out there? Hopefully that answered the question there. If you're just dropping in right now to us, this is the Neil McDonnell GovCon Show, where I go live daily, thinking out loud about how federal buyers actually make decisions and how industry wins work. I want to be able to answer your questions as we go along. I am going to be following this loose agenda, and I'm going to pause on the questions for a few minutes. But keep in mind, if you've got a question, just put, like Annette did, the word question at the beginning and then whatever you'd like to write. And I'll come back to that. But as we go forward, I want to touch on some other topics here. You're welcome, Brett. I appreciate that. Well, you just wrote, you can call me SIGE, but now I'm still a little hesitant because I'm like, is it Sige or Siege? I want to pronounce the word correctly. I need it phonetically. So then I can say hello whenever I see you in here. Okay, so I wanted to talk about top reasons I unfollow people on LinkedIn. I just want to give you a couple of LinkedIn tips because I use LinkedIn all the time, and it's a really powerful tool. And so I'm going to share my screen for a second and bring up LinkedIn. Where am I? So I think I'm here. See you later, Sam. I'll come back to you later. So let's go here for a second. So let's bring up Brett, for example. So this is who was just asking questions. Definitely reach out and connect with Brett and follow. Fractional Chief Growth Officer. How'd you get it to do that? That's pretty cool, Brett. I got to ask you later. Anyways, let's say I don't like what Brett is putting out there, right? He's sharing information. I'm like, it's boring. First off, the tactical, how do you do it? Well, you click on these three dots and in here, you see where it says following. I can just hit that. And when I hit that, I will stop seeing as much of Brett's information. If I don't like the relationship with Brett, I'm like, it's not valuable at all, I can remove the connection. And if I really don't want this person to be engaged in any way coming into my world, I can say block, which I would never do to you, Brett. But I wanted to say the difference, right? Following, when I'm saying I'm following Brett, it's saying that I want to see whatever he's putting out. And so right here on the right-hand side, you can see this bell notification. And I'm saying just most relevant. Actually, now that I see, I'm going to hit all because I want to see everything Brett's doing. I want to maintain my relationship with Brett. If he puts out stuff that's interesting to me, I want to learn from it and grow. If he puts out stuff that's less interesting to me, but I see what he's trying to do and I can support him, I might engage on his content to be able to push it forward. And since I want that long-term relationship with Brett to continue to grow, this is something simple that I can do to maintain that relationship and grow it. And I'm actually going to hit save here. And so the idea is if I'm following, I'm seeing his stuff. If there's a connection, that is more like we want to talk to each other back and forth. LinkedIn sees that at a little higher level. I actually have 28,000 connections and 44,000 followers. And what I'll probably do is remove 5,000 connections as I go forward, because you can only go up to 30,000. To make room for more people like Brett and others like you who are in the industry. And so that's a really important thing as you start going forward. The other thing about a connection, and this is a really important thing to remember, is I get people who connect or try to connect with me. And one of the first things I do is I look right here and I go, wow, Brett and I are got 717 mutual connections. For the most part, if I see that, I almost don't have to look at anything else. Everything he's saying in here, former Air Force engineer, I'm like, oh, he's in the in my space. Right here, it says he's in the federal market. So those things are all more than enough for me to accept it. But other times, if I connect with somebody, John Smith, and Brett looks and he goes, oh, Neil's connected. Neil's vouching for him that I'm going to connect. But I'm really not doing that. And so I hope I'm not bouncing around too much. But be careful who you're connecting with. I don't mean hesitate, but I don't connect with people out of country, for example, because I'm not doing business in another country. My primary business is here. So if there's somebody in another country who actually wants to engage in my content, which I totally appreciate, then they can follow me. But we don't have to have a connection. A connection is a level of an endorsement, not a heavy endorsement, but just a level of an endorsement. And then the last one is blocking. I block right now. I think I have if I, you can go in and look at who you're blocked at, and I don't want to show you the list because that'd be not nice to them. It's one thing for me to block it, but I don't need to broadcast it. But these people, I'm like, look, I don't want to have anything to do with you. And this almost always happens when I see people who are just very uncaring and mean, in my opinion. And I'm like, you're out of my life. There's millions of people in my life. I want them to be nice people. I don't want them to be mean people. And I don't need to judge you. You just blocked. Well, that's I probably have at least 400 people, I think, in there in block status. And what that means is not there's anything special there. It just first off means I have a lot of people who come into my space, and I want to keep, it's like pulling weeds out of a garden, if you will. But that's an important way to manage your network on LinkedIn, and it controls your feed, which I want to talk about in a second. And so following, connecting, and blocking, these are things that are really important. And then the last one is you see how I hit that bell notification. Make sure on me, I'd love for you to hit the bell notification and change it to all. But pay attention to those things as you go forward. That's a really important way to look at that. I'm going to pause 1 second, and then I'm going to come right back in because I want to share something else. But I just want to see, do you have any questions about this as we go forward? I'm going to look. There's an ad. Hey, Candace. Yes. Brett, Elizabeth, you're welcome. Anthony Fuller. Hey, Anthony. Jay, that's one of the things I do well, Brett. Yeah, constructive procrastination. Wait, Jay, you do constructive procrastination well? For everybody else, if you saw in the chat, I call when you're doing something that isn't the top priority, you're doing constructive procrastination. It might need to get done. Like you're looking for new opportunities. It's like, whoa. You got opportunities in your pipeline. First you need to do is move those forward. Then go get more. It's a classic problem with all of us. We're really comfortable working at the top of the funnel, the things that get people who are interested or things, but it's harder when we come down the funnel and we have to, work harder at it. And so, Jay, that's really good. Hey, William. That's the phase and that. Good. I'm going to come back to the elevator speech in a second, Susan. Just checking. New to business. Mentor, come back. Okay. Okay. All right. We'll come back. Yeah, Brett, Cecilia, if you guys don't know, Cecilia McDonnell is my sister, and she's involved. She's been helping me in the GovCon Chamber since 2018, and she's very involved in this space. And her specialty is LinkedIn. Okay, Brett, you get all this FaceTime, all this free publicity. Okay, so I wanted to show you another way of looking at what I just showed you. I'm going to go into my feed, and I want to show you how I kind of just cruise through the feed. So I'm coming down, and there's two things. I want to show you, one, how I scroll down and just find things of interest in it and engage in it. The other is I want to show you how I clean my feed occasionally, right? It's like weeding the garden, a little bit every day, and it pretty much never stops, right? But a little bit every day, make sure that the things you want growing in your garden have a lot more room to grow. So Brenda's a really a great example. She's a friend of mine in the GovCon space. And by the way, 99% of my friends in the GovCon space I have not met. We are just professional friends in here. We like each other. We respect each other. And it's such a great thing for me, because imagine if all I could do is hang out with the 1% who I do know very well, or I have seen in person. Having this social network enables me to learn. And I learn a lot from Brenda. She's one of my favorite ones to follow. So here I'm looking at this. What's the greatest return on investment gained in AI Gen AI bids? She's talking about AI. They're doing a survey. So I'm looking at this. What's the greatest benefit? So I'm going to engage in this just because I like her and I want to vote in her poll, but I also want to vote in the polls so that, because I know she's doing different things with it. And I have an opinion on this. So for me, the greatest thing I think is submit more proposals. Oh, look at that. I'm in second or third place, but I'm putting that because I think that stuff over there. You can do two things, by the way, in here. You can vote in a poll and it helps LinkedIn push it out. I'm going to give it an insightful type of engagement. You take 2 seconds and you hover above it and you get these emojis if you see them. So every 3 to 5 posts, you get a promoted post like this from Deltec. I wish I could unfollow the promoted, but you can't. So I'm coming down here. Look, I got a first connection. He's a branch chief in the contracting side of the Army. Here's an industry day you might be interested in. It's in sam.gov. And he just did it 19 hours ago. So this one's really important for me to share. And I want to show you kind of how I engage with this. By the way, when I engage, there is obviously a tactical way that I engage. I'm tactically engaging by thinking about who do I want to engage with the most, so I'm seeing more of their stuff. But there's a personal side to it as well. Every comment I write is genuine. I don't use AI. I don't write for the sake of it. So here, I'm going to show you a genuine thing. So yeah, I'm clapping because I'm like, hey, thanks, Ralph. And so here, I'm going to write a quick comment, thanks, comma, at, and so it automatically pulls it up. So he's in contracting command in Orlando. And he's another one I don't really know, but we're connected and our stuff is going back and forth with each other. I always do backspace on the last name. That's why I don't like all that extra stuff after a last name. PMP or whatever. It's like having all these extra things. It's not necessary. Thanks, Ralph, for sharing this. I hadn't been tracking on it. And then find an interesting title under organic, industrial base, and indirect. So I'm just going to leave it at that, right? I'm saying thank you. So now I've just engaged with Ralph. Then I want to keep in my feed. So I'm clicking. What I did is I right-clicked and opened in a new tab, this Army contracting command. And here's a really important thing to remember. This Army contracting command has 40,000 followers. So I'm going to go into this event. Look at this thing right now. It was 19 hours ago. Not a single person has commented. Hey, Brett Foster, he and I swim in the same pools apparently. But no one's commented, Brett. So I'm looking at this and I'm going to engage for two reasons. One is engagement in a comment is more valuable to the people who post it than a thumbs up. Thumbs ups are good. If that's all you got, that's totally fine. But if you can find something of relevance to put in to the comment, that's more value because that's what LinkedIn wants to see happen. And then obviously people will see my name and see stuff, but I'm also helping the person who posted it, in this case, the contracting command, I'm helping them get visibility out there more because LinkedIn is saying, whoa, look at the engagement on here. Let's push it out further. Even though these guys have 40,000 followers, it hasn't reached but 20 people here. If you think about 4 reposts and 15 thumbs up. And that's because LinkedIn has changed things and they're trying to figure out who to push it. So let me read this really quick. Okay, so Army Contracting Command Rock Island on behalf of whoever. Oh, by the way, this is huge because this is a whole change of how their program offices are organized. And so now they're portfolio acquisition executive offices, if you will. Wait, that might be a little different than I'm thinking, but these PAEs are coming up. And so obviously with things that are changing, I'm back to, I don't know much about it. I want to learn more about it. It's telling me where it's at. This posting is notifying industry of the intent to do it. Please note registration 101 forthcoming. Do not submit, blah, blah, blah. Further information, please continue to Sam. Perfect. So I'm going to click this notice before I comment. And I'm going to go in here and look at this organic industrial base. I can kind of think I might know what it means, but I don't know what it is, right? I don't actually know what organic industrial base is. We have maritime industrial base and manufacturing industrial base and the defense industrial base. And so, when you think about organic, and you might know this, which is great. For me, it's a little different, and it could be just the way they talk about it. So I'm coming down here and I'm looking for something that could be helpful. Program combat systems would provide information on project planning. I don't do anything with mortars. Okay, I'm coming down. Okay, here's, sorry, I went through that pretty fast, and maybe you tell me in the chats whether you want me to go slower on these things, but I'm going to close this because all I was trying to do is show you what I'm going to write. And instead, I'm going to put interesting because that's what I feel. And then I'm going to sit there and say, thanks for sharing this out on LinkedIn. And then I'm just going to tag them at U.S. Army Contracting Command. And actually, I think what I'll say is I'm pushing out to the at GovCon Chamber, which is my organization and my network, to make sure others hear about this this event, right? And I don't do this on every single thing that's out there, but I like the Army Contracting Command. I'm doing stuff. If they had more depth in there or a file, I might have referenced something about it. And so I'm just going to hit comment. The reason this is helpful, and I might come back in towards the end of this session, I'll leave it open. But if these guys give me a thumbs up, not only does it show that they appreciated that I engaged, but now their 40,000 followers will be notified that the Army Contracting Command just gave a thumbs up to Neil's comment. I will tell you, I don't know how many engagements you get on a post, but think about this. If you've ever posted on LinkedIn, what is the average number of views you get for that post? 50, 500, 5,000, whatever it is, right? I have literally had a post a comment that got 3,000, 4,000 views just on the comment. those views are from individual people. Doesn't mean they fully read it. Doesn't mean they're like, oh my God, Neil, he's the greatest guy. But it means my name and my tagline of bringing industry and federal buyers together was in front of 4,000 people. That's how many people that comment went in front of. And because I'm engaging, it's getting out there. Now, here's the thing that I really want you to pay attention to is don't engage for engagement's sake. Figure out where it can go. When I saw Ralph's post, well, I'm an Army guy and I'm constantly talking about get into the Army. The Army's got the biggest budget, especially for small businesses spending. It's the biggest traction. So I talk about that a lot. So it's natural that I'm going in there, but I'm not just going in and hijacking people's posts out there. So you always got to kind of watch that. I'm going to pop over really quick to the chat just to see if anybody's asking a question on the LinkedIn stuff. If you got it, by the way, if you just, okay, I'm going to come back to that in a second. So really quickly, as I'm going along, I just want to say, if you're just dropping in now, if you're coming a little late, that's totally fine. This is the Neil McDonnell GovCon Show, where I go live daily thinking out loud about how federal buyers actually make decisions and how industry wins work. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Put the word question in your chat before you go forward. Okay, so I'm coming down. One thing I noticed is that with Ralph, I want to come back here and make sure that I've hit the bell icon with him. And I can see that I have not. But anything this guy says, I want to see it, even if sometimes he shares stuff that doesn't mean anything to me. Like he's like, you know, hey, happy birthday, Army Contracting Command. I'm like, whatever. I don't even celebrate my own birthdays. But this guy is probably sharing a lot of relevant stuff. Let's say, even if it's 60 or 70% of his stuff is resonating with me, I'd rather make sure I don't miss a thing from him. And so again, this is because I did that, I will see more of him potentially in my feed, and potentially I will see more of people similar to him. Okay, so let me keep coming down here. So Chevy is a friend of the industry as well. Join me every Wednesday. So she's talking about innovation funding. I got to actually get back to her. Actually, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to like I wouldn't have paid attention. And I say this very softly, but I wouldn't have engaged with her if she didn't pop up, because like you, my life is just really busy and I forget to engage with people. But I want to sit there and say, you know, by the way, this is what I meant by, and I love her, but too many words in here, right? It's like, because in here, you generally just want that. You know, so great to see you doing this innovation outreach is what I'm going to call it. We need to chat soon. I am planning an innovation week you might be interested in being part of. Something like that. And the reason I did this is because I am planning a cyber week with Department of War. And if we can work this stuff out, I'm looking at Chevy, and she is really leaning in heavily into innovation and talking about that. I'm like, okay, let's go forward. So again, I'm cruising through. Hey, so I told you my sister was on here, is Cecilia. This thing lately has been happening. She must be sharing a document in here. I'm going to give her a thumbs up and keep moving because I can't see it. But I wanted to show you one where I go away. But this is a good example of how how good my feed is. So far, you've seen only government contractor related stuff. I'm going to go a little faster just so I can find something that is. So Cat might be a great one. So I'm first connected, but it tends to be mostly about. So I'm going to hit unfollow. No offense, right? But I'm just saying, she does stuff that's more on the grants and VC funding type thing. Well, I don't really need to see that stuff at the moment. So whenever I want to go and engage, I can do that. But that's the thing, is to know. So what she does, by the way, is really interesting. Let me just pause. Well, hold on one second. Let me make sure I've got Kaylee's bell. Nope. See, so I want to make sure I don't miss any. Oh, good. I am seeing. No, I'm not. All right. So I just put Kaylee on all. Kaylee is Deputy Small Business for a Warfare Center out in Crane, Indiana. let me come back here really quick and stop sharing because I went through a lot there. What I'm trying to do is go through, and you saw me unfollow that one person, and it's not in any reflection bad. It's just like if I have her stuff there, I will find myself going down unconstructive procrastination. She will put out some good piece of content. I'm like, oh, let me look at it. But it has nothing to do with my goals. My goals are over here. And if I don't get good at taking things out of my feed that are positive and really interesting, but not on target with my goal, if I don't do that, then I'm going to let myself be distracted, not hit my goals. But if I can tighten up my feed, like you saw, I was scrolling pretty decently until I ran into the first person who was unrelated to my goals. Everybody else was related to my goals. And even Kaylee is kind of related to my goals. It's just not my priority right now. I mean, not Kaylee, but the other person, Kat. So let me pause there. I'm going to come back up, and I wanted to find that question. Susan, there it is. Hopefully this makes sense for you. If you clean up your feed, you will find more teaming partners and more government buyers that you want to reach coming into your feed, which enables you to get bigger and bigger visibility among the people you want to reach. Okay, so the next question we got here, and it's really long, so I'm going to write it. Well, actually, let me just put it here, and then I'll say it. So question about our elevator speech. We're performing really well at managing our contracts and the people we recruit and place in positions. We're successful at retaining excellent people in those positions. We work very hard to motivate and incentivize our on-site employees to focus on the mission of the customer. We are proactive to reduce risk and are responsive with any issues that arise. By the way, I've read all that so far, and it shows me a massive strength in serving existing customers. How do we communicate this quickly without sounding like a staffing company? Not that there's anything wrong with that. Right. That's how we know, we either say bless her heart or not that there's anything wrong with that. So the question is, this is an interesting thing. The question began with a question about the elevator speech. If I just lean heavily into semantics, right? Because maybe these aren't the words that Susan was meaning when she had it. But when you think about an elevator thing, when you think about talking to new customers, which I'm assuming is what Susan's talking about, there's three basic levels that you're going through. You've got an elevator, what I like to call an elevator hook. And that's the thing that gets you on the elevator, right? Whether you're near an elevator or not, doesn't matter. So elevator hook is that one sentence, that very quick sentence that gets you on the elevator. And to be able to give your elevator pitch, which is the second thing. Your elevator pitch is designed to be, in my opinion, it should be somewhere between 30 and 60 seconds. That's the entirety of the elevator pitch. And basically you're saying, if I use my last company, my hook might be, and I could have prepared this more, but my hook might be something like, we do Microsoft SharePoint support services throughout multiple federal or multiple civilian and defense agencies. Can I get 15 minutes of your time, or can I get the elevator ride with you or something, right? But that's it. We do Microsoft SharePoint services. That's what we do. And where do we do it? In several, so more than one, several civilian and defense agencies. We have communicated so much to that person in that one hook, what we sell, who we're selling to, the federal market, and who's paying us, civilian and defense agencies. That's enough for a person to go, do I care about SharePoint or not? Or is that way outside my world? So if I say this to a person who's in charge of facility maintenance and they're out there doing it and they rarely touch a computer, they're going to be like, that's cool. No, like, I don't want to talk to you or whatever. And they're not going to be mean, but that's what you want. You want people to say no and people say yes. And then the elevator pitch as you're going up, it might be something like our SharePoint services are engineering, administration, and development. And then I might lean into a couple of quick examples. We've supported the White House on 50 different apps that support the movement of the president. We've supported the Department of Veterans Affairs at over 50 hospitals, supporting 150,000 users. Something like that. You're just giving it. Basically, it's your capability statement, right? That's what your elevator pitch is, in my opinion, right? Your capability statement can be consumed in 6 seconds, right? The hook. And then they come back and they read it a little bit more, 20, 30 seconds, and they really see a lot more about what you're doing. Here's some of the past performances. Here's the differentiator. You don't say all of that in the hook. And then as you move forward, you've got, she mentioned elevator speech, and I'm going to convert that, and hopefully I get it right. But then you're thinking about a capabilities briefing. And that tends to be what we used to call the first meeting you have with somebody, right? And you're going in and having capabilities briefing. And so to her point directly, she is asking, how do I sit there and point out the strengths around what we do? I would literally have a slide that says strengths. When I read what she said, we perform really well in managing our contracts. Well, so I would quickly say, how could you define that in a measurable way? For example, in CPARs, do they rate that for you so that you can say our CPARs around this? I would make this slide about CPARs ratings and what our customers are saying about us. That kind of thing. It's 15, 20-second briefing, but you instantly are getting credibility about how our contracts go well. When you say we recruit and place the positions, those should be turned into timelines, because what people care about is, we get the right people into the right seats or the right positions in the shortest amount of time. The time is something that's really important. I need you to execute the mission, or if you're doing it with a large or a prime, then you need to be billing out the revenue. And then the other thing is retention on people, right? And so these are things that we want to be bragging about. I say this softly, but we don't want to brag about winning the 2025 GovCon Chamber Award for excellence. Whoop-de-doo, right? That doesn't mean anything to a customer's buy-in. What a customer wants to know is we have 97% retention. I got to tell you, even, and maybe I'm saying this because I am a veteran, but putting things like we have, 50% veteran, that doesn't really add any value to what's in there. But if you tell me, everybody hires veterans. Like, show me a company that does not hire veterans. And they will be attacked, right? And it's the same thing. Show me a company that doesn't hire this group, that group, that group. But what people really do want to see is that when you hire people, we know they're so good because the retention period, right? They're with us for this long on average, or 97% of the people we hire stay with us. Those are massive, and that's what I would put in. And then she's talking about we work very hard to motivate and incentivize our on-site employees to focus on the mission. I would not, so that sentence, the way it's written, and let me just say it for everybody, we work very hard to motivate and incentivize our on-site employees to focus on the mission of the customer. That's our job. So there's no point in telling it to the customer. But that whole sentence could be reworked to say, to ensure mission compliance or mission, I'm missing the word here, but mission support or something, to ensure that we have a weekly 15-minute training outside the work-related stuff about the mission of your organization. You got to figure out how to tighten that line up, but that could resonate. It's like, well, we don't even do that, right? We introduce our people, and when you say something like that, they'll ask you, how do you do that? Well, one week we show them the org chart just so they understand, look, you're here, but actually we're supporting other internal customers here for this agency. Or we brought the strategic plan out, showed them the lines of effort that you guys have. And when you say those things, it resonates. We're proactive to reduce risk and responsive to any issues. That goes back to a CPARS thing. The sentence is, we are proactive to reduce risk and are responsive with any issues that arise. No federal buyer or really any customer expects there to be zero problems. What they want and what CPARS measures, and if you don't know what CPARS is, it's basically a review of how well people are doing in their contracts. And you can go look that up separately, or somebody will throw it in the chat. But what you want to be able to communicate is that these problems have arisen and we were able to identify them very quickly, resolve them very quickly, and make sure that they never occur again. That kind of thing, that ability to communicate, to me, that's not as important in early briefings, because that's really what you're putting into the meat of your responses to the government. This is how we manage challenges. This is our CPARS. And if you don't have CPARS, by the way, this is something that goes back to what Susan was asking here. And I know I've got a long answer on this, but is making sure the people on site are weekly thinking about what did we do well that our customer was like, good job. And then what issue came up and how did we address it? This is fundamental to program management or project management of your contracts. But if you can get the people to understand that, then you start having perhaps emails from somebody saying, hey, that problem arose, but this is how you did it. And you resolved it to excellence. I love that. So let me go ahead and pause there. And Susan, I hope I answered that question to your satisfaction. But it is an interesting thing. One last thing I'll say, and then I'll drink water apparently, is that you said something about how do we do that without sounding like a staffing company? The thing about this is why, well, now you don't want to sound like a consulting company either, right? They're all the same. The idea about a staffing company is we're thinking about the solution or the person who's coming in and the hiring or whatever. What we need to think about is what's the problem you have that we're trying to solve for you. And so as you go in and talk, one of the things I would encourage your company or the company you're talking about here, going back to focus, is they must have a core area of expertise. Staffing companies sometimes try to staff all positions, and then they can talk about none of them in any real deep way. But if staffing companies were like all cyber, let's say, then they would lean in heavily and be able to have conversations about the cyber challenges. And, we have some of the greatest people in here who could do the work. And by the way, just as a quick tip, when you lean in heavily like that, then you can pull cyber people off of other contracts, put them on the new ones if they're some of your favorite people, and put your newer employees onto existing customers. There's a way to do that where you really start building off of the reputation you have. And then that existing customer, you just tell them, hey, John's over here. We want to be able to give John some variety of work, whatever. But he's right there. If any reason we need to say, John, can you bring some of that legacy knowledge back? He's there. He's not going anywhere. He's still with the company. You just have Jane now, and she's got his same certifications. So I'm looking at this question here. I'm going to answer a couple of questions, then I'll go back to my agenda here. I'm looking at a couple of questions here. This one is, I'm new to business. Can I get a mentor? And then you say I have an SBA certificate. I don't know what that means. The SBA, for the most part, doesn't hand out a certificate. You were either registered in SAM or you're not. And then if you're talking about the small business programs, there's 4 certifications. Those are unique, and you just want to figure out what they are. Personally, I don't care about any of those for new business. New business shouldn't worry about, even woman-owned small business or veterans, don't even worry about it. You want to lean in heavily to just being the best at network engineering, which I'm assuming you're saying. You said, can I get a mentor? The first place you go for a mentor in a generic, broad way is the Small Business Development Center, which is based on, is SBA run basically. And then the second place you go is the Apex Accelerators. Both of those have local shops, and sometimes they're in the same shop, local offices around the country. And so probably have one near you. You could just go online and find that. Just type in Apex Accelerators and you'll see a list right at the top. Or you type in SBDC and you'll see find my local Starbucks or SBDC. So those are the best first mentors. You can always come in and watch my training, et cetera, but these people are set up to offer free guidance. They'll sit down and meet with you as well if you're in their neighborhood. You said you're an expert in networking setup and security. So I'm assuming that means network administration engineering. I would lean 100% into that, and I would pick one network. I don't know if there still is like a lot, but an example, if you're talking about cloud technology, lean all the way into AWS or all the way into Azure, for example. Don't be vendor agnostic, be vendor biased. Be the very best AWS network engineer. When you do that, it makes it so easy for you to now go do my second recommendation, which is reach out to a bunch of small businesses who are in a similar IT type space as you that are doing $5+ million. And you can go watch previous training I've done on how to find them, but reach out to them and say, I'm an expert at AWS networking. I'm brand new to government contracting, and I'm looking for a firm like yours that I can subcontract under for the next 2 or 3 years as I gain my experience as a government contractor, and I support your customers and make sure you're looking really good to your customers, right? Can we have a conversation? You reach out to enough people, you'll find 5 or so who are like, yeah. And in those, you'll start to find work. In the old days, I really hated this when I was running my business. People were like, oh, it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's the relationships. But no one would ever tell you who or how or any of this stuff. And I'm telling you, literally, the first who are small businesses, but you want to make sure they're like 5 million or above. That way they've got some room to bring you on as a subcontractor if you're able to establish a respectful relationship with them, which I think is redundant. But great question there. Shout out to Cecilia, Brett, custom pronoun trick. Oh, the custom pronoun. Oh, thanks. See, this is what I like. It's like, I know a lot, and I know that there's way, way more that I don't know. I literally came to my own live stream to learn. Sorry, I got to write down. Let me just share this really quick. So you see what I'm doing. Custom pronoun. The reason if you don't know this, in LinkedIn, they have custom pronouns where you can say they, them, their, or not their, but they, them type things, and or she or he, whatever you want. But in there must be a custom functionality where you can write whatever you want. And I love this because if you're not using the custom pronoun for how they envisioned it, then you can use it your own way. And that is awesome. I got to thank Cecilia for that too. Okay, so Jay, let me look into behavior. I love when I'm getting really late to some of these comments. Neil answered the 8A question. It was about an hour in the session. Thanks, Susan. Neil provided some great insight. Recommend why. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Candace, a PMP, project manager. By the way, you could almost drop project manager because every one of your audience who you want to, in LinkedIn, everyone who's who you want to talk to probably will know what PMP is. So you don't need the project manager part. Okay, question. What do you recommend new businesses invest money in to grow RFP hunt platforms? GSA assistance or LinkedIn ads? Okay, you got to, I'm not following the question. What do you recommend new businesses invest money in to grow? So are you talking about you've got a tool that you're building to help people find opportunities and you want to figure out how to reach a broader audience? I don't know what GSA assistance is because you're not going to get anything there. But I got to tell you, like, I think the very best thing you can do to grow any business, it doesn't matter whether you're trying to grow what I think you're growing is an outside business to serve the government contracting market. Whether you're trying to grow that or you're a government contractor yourself, I think the best way to advertise and brand is to do what I do, not at my volume or the length of time I'm talking, but put posts out that talk about what you do. So Candace was talking about an RFP hunt platform, something that probably is looking for RFPs. And if that's the case, then I would just be putting out examples of, hey, here's a great RFP. I use this tool. You'll start attracting people in. Finding the right opportunities is one of the big challenges for government contractors, not just small, large as $1 billion, struggle with that as well. Even they'll miss a $1 billion opportunity because it just wasn't on the radar that they're looking at. It's like on another radar. But that's what I would recommend is the biggest way to grow any of our companies is to do networking and engaging with people out there. And you can't keep going to all these conferences or spending money on advertisement because it starts going down. So before you get to that stage, just engage out there. Okay, hopefully that did that there. We love the Army here in San Antonio. Susan, I'd love to team up but call you and have a conversation because I'm helping somebody push into the Army further. They've got TS and all this other stuff that I'd love to see where you're at. Okay, William, thanks. Good to see you guys chatting in there. Ralph, William, thank you, Neil. You're welcome, Jay. We do have exceptional CPARs. Perfect. My answer might have been way longer than your question. That's great. Measurement of insight. So here's the last question I'm looking here, and then I'm going to go back to some of the things I want to share. What was your recommendation for upgrading here? The question was, what was your recommendation for upgrading to LinkedIn? Also interested in your call plan AI. Well, reach out to me in DM and I'll talk to you about, I'm evolving call plan AI. And so I'd happy to chat with you about it. The LinkedIn, I recommend anybody who's in business in this type of business, not if you're in a restaurant or something, but if you're in this business and on my calls, then you want to have the paid version, the business version of LinkedIn. It gives you more capability. Then you want to start learning the capabilities that are in there. So one of the capabilities that you have when you pay is you can see more farther back and more people who have viewed your profile. So who's viewing my profile is a good thing, because now you can see, am I putting out content or engaging in comments in a way that's attracting the people I want to attract in. So an example is, if I look at, let me go show you who's viewing my profile. So it's, I don't think this kind of information is that private. Let me close that. But if I go over here, and I have Sales Navigator, but this is not part of Sales Navigator. If I come over here and I look at profile viewers, by the way, this is what I'm talking about. In the last 90 days, only 3,000 people, and I say only because yours might be lower too, but only 3,000 people have looked at my profile in the last 90 days. But on one post that I do, on one comment that I do, I will have 3, 4, 5, 10,000 people looking at that. And so they don't have to come to my profile. Those are people who probably already know me. And I've already really established the know, like, or trust, or starting to get there. And so, these are people who are exploring. So anyways, let's come down right here. Somebody at Dell Federal Systems. That's really good for me. That's who I want to reach. It's just a secret in there. Somebody from Dell Tech. So it's still, I'm attracting GovCon fractional consultant, business consultant for federal contractors. Coming down. So someone, a student probably, somebody. So sometimes people keep their stuff hidden. More people who look like they're in the business side. And I'm just coming down to see if there's any that are like for recruiters, right? I'm not trying to attract recruiters, and it's always funny when you get them looking. What is hard sometimes for me, like here's Saudi Solutions, right? Well, I happen to be connected with Bill, but it's like I'm staying on these people's radars, and this is what I want to do. So I encourage you to do the same thing. Go to your home and click on profile viewers, and you'll see, oh, I'm sorry, did I just do all that without even sharing? Oh, well, I'm not going to go back and do that again. But my point, you heard me talking about it. My point was you can go into go to your home page on LinkedIn, and on the left-hand side, you'll see profile views. And, for me, it's 3,400 in the last 90 days, and that'll go up and down depending on what I'm doing. But when you click on that, especially as a free version, you'll see some people. As a paid version, you'll see like the 90 days or something. And because I do Sales Navigator, I can see pretty much infinite in there. Okay, just okay. Let me look there. Perfect. Oh, by the way, Frederick, you're asking about personal versus corporate. Nowadays, don't do anything corporate. Everything is personal. You're building your brand and your reputation. If you're in a company and you're going to be there forever, that's great. But if you move, then you're moving forward. But people buy from those they know, like, and trust. They don't buy from companies. And so now the way social media works, if you have a company page and a personal page, your personal page will way outgrow your company page. And the only reason your company page will ever grow in any heavy way is because somebody is paying advertisement to push people there. The minute you stop doing posts, and all you have to do is post personally and then share that personal post over on your company page, and you can do it that way. Okay, so water, got to remind myself. So really quickly, if you're just joining me, if you weren't here the whole time, this is the Neil McDonnell GovCon Show, where I go live daily thinking out loud about how federal buyers actually make decisions and how industry wins work. If you have questions, go ahead and do what you're seeing in the chat. Put the word question and then your question. And when I come back into the chat, I'll get to that. I did want to go into a couple other things I wanted to share. So I've talked about LinkedIn posts. I've been answering a lot of questions. I wanted to talk about how to make your offer focused and memorable. Actually, really quickly, I'm going to answer that one and say, but let me take strategies to transition out of 8A for 500. I'm having too much fun. So this question, what do I do to prepare for my exit? And just to bring everybody up to speed, the 8A is a small business program within the SBA for government contractors who are able to get that certification. There's roughly 4,000 firms right now that are certified 8A. 3 months ago, there was 5,400. Now we're down to 4,000 firms. These 4,000 firms have a 9-year window basically that they go through. They get certified today and they've got 9 years in the program. And this is called a business development program, because the idea in that 9 years is to help this 8A firm and the business owner grow in organizational maturity and revenue or contract success, to the point that then at year 9, and even before year 9, but then at year 9, they're able to graduate out of the 8A program and continue to have success. One unfortunate thing about the 8A program, if you look at the data, you will see any 8A that's had any success in there, the average 8A goes up, has some success, and then when they come out, they go back down to almost nothing in revenue. And it's really, really unfortunate. There are definitely successes that happen, but when you look at the bulk of the data and the revenue that happens, it's in there. And the reason I say this is because of the question, what's my recommendation for strategic exit to the 8A? The minute you get into the 8A program, you should be thinking about leaving the 8A program. And inside the 8A, one of the advantages that are there are you can get 8A set-asides competed with other 8As, or you can get 8A sole source, which is actually a lot more prevalent out there. And so you can have as many 8A contracts as you want and as much revenue as 8A contracts until you start getting to, I think it's like year 5. And the minute you start heading down the other side of the curve of the 9 years, you have to have a less and less 8A revenue and more non-8A revenue. And what they're trying to do is to make sure as you exit out of the 8A program, you're not dependent on all these contracts that you won't be able to recompete on, because you will no longer be an 8A contractor. And generally, I know things are changing a little bit, but generally, there's a rule out there that says once a contract is an 8A contract, it remains an 8A contract. That means if you got an 8A contract in year 7 and you get to keep it until, let's say, year 10, which is past your graduation, but that's okay. Then when the recompete happens in year 10, you will not be able to compete for it, because it will stay within the 8A program and only existing 8A companies can go after it. Of course, there's some variations that are happening right now, but those are exceptions, so let's not talk about them. So when I look at this stuff, what I like to tell businesses, so the other thing is, why do they go down? Why do 8As go up and they go down? I believe this is because of a lack of true strategy or strategic planning for how am I going to be going through the 9 years and how will I come out? What I mean by a lack of strategic planning is selling multiple things. Literally, there are 8A firms who will win a cloud contract doing IT work, cloud contract. They might win something doing like cybersecurity. They also might be doing something like security guard work and some other things, because in there, this is a flaw in the help and advice that they get, in my opinion, is if they start building relationships with contracting officers, sometimes those friendly contracting officers hand them a contract, do a sole source. They might have to write something, but they would like hand them stuff. And the problem is they start having these unrelated past performances. And when you have unrelated past performances, because you have a lack of focus on my offering, I'm doing Microsoft SharePoint, that's it. If I say that, then all I have is SharePoint past performances. But if I say I'm an 8A contractor doing government contracting and I take whatever's there, when I come out of the 9 years, I'm known for nothing. I have contracts and people go, yeah, you've won federal contracts, but what are you good at? Well, I mean, we're doing this or that. But if you could sit there and say, this is what I do, core competency, this is it, Microsoft SharePoint, for example, then everything you go after and everything you accept will be those SharePoint related contracts. And so that idea of lack of focus and getting contracts that are spread bring you to the end of the 9 years and you don't have enough really relevant or related past performances to compete at what we call total small business or full and open. So compete on contracts with more competitors. And so your past performance is weak. It's not helping you win contracts. And then the other thing is your agencies. So I said you have a lack of focus in what you sell, you lack of focus in the contracts or past performance you have. And the last one is a lack of focus. And I'm not saying these negative, I'm saying these negatively impact your success. A lack of focus on the customers you have. So I will literally work with experienced 8As who have 10, 20, 30 different customer agencies. And that means they don't know any of them in any depth because they have work everywhere. And that seems really good when you're getting $4 million contracts, $10 million contracts. But literally, I've watched people go up to 30 and 40 million and come back down. And they shouldn't have to. So the way they avoid that, and this is going back to what's my strategy for exiting out of the 8A program, is you need to determine one thing you want to be great at. I have a friend, I built really good companies doing network engineering and another company doing Microsoft SharePoint. I have a friend who built a company much larger than mine doing 100 million in one agency doing one thing, which was data analytics. And that type of focus, right, is really important. I talk separately about how do you choose the right thing to focus on. But basically, you want to choose something that the government is spending enough money on, but so you want it absolutely the tightest focus. But if they're not spending a lot of money, then you can increase your, the focus, keep spreading it a little bit out there. Anyways, and so those many agencies, when you get to the end, you don't have any really strong relationships. They were all built on 8A type contracts. And, you don't have any value, and I said this softly, any value to teaming partners, larger teaming partners, or including billion-dollar large firms. They don't look at you and go, oh my gosh, you're totally all over the Navy. We want to work with you because you've got solid relationships. And that's what happens when you focus on an agency, and you can pick one or two, depending on how big you are. You can add another person who's doing sales and you give them one place. Like I would say, a person who has the Navy should not be tasked with selling to the Air Force and Department of Education and other places, right? You pick one place and you go in. So, my recommendation for how you plan a strategy to exit out of 8A, answering that topic, is to make sure you have a clear focused offer and make sure that the contracts you're going after are all related to that offer. Because in the 9-year window, and whether you're an 8A or not, this is good advice. Make sure the contracts you're winning are all building on the past performance of your core offer. So if you're selling training services or project management services, all of your past performances should be $10,000 and then $100,000 ones and then $1 million ones. Like that's how we grow a business. But they should all be reinforcing that we're the best at project management or we're the best at lawn care services, whatever that is. And then you should tighten down that focus onto one or two main agencies. I've got a customer is doing $5 million and they were in many agencies, and I've been guiding them down to saying, get rid of some of these agencies and focus. And these are their strategic focus. And their focus is Department of War because they're already in there, right? And the Department of War will spend money. And they're even tighter, their focus will be Army and Air Force for now because they're already in there. There's no point in adding the Navy yet. But when they do add an agency, it should be the Navy, right? Because they're all kind of related as part of the Department of War. That's what I want you to be able to do. If I slide forward out of those three pieces of advice, when you think about strategically exiting, you should be planning your exit in year 6 or so, right? You want to start building relationships with two groups of people. You want to start make sure you build relationships and get past performance contracts, like where you even sub with strategic partners who can help you grow. So an example is if you've got really good contract presence somewhere, like that customer I was just mentioning, right? If they've got good traction, then what they want to do is in the next year, maybe reach out to Booz Allen. Let's use them as an example, a large prime, and you want to work with Booz Allen because you could potentially get growth. Well, invite Booz Allen into a contract of yours or into an opportunity you're going after. Hey, we're going after this 8A contract. It's $30 million. Love to team up with you. And if you build relationships with people in Booz Allen that enable you to then be able to ask that question, if you can get them on one of your contracts and you start building similar type relationships like that with other small and large companies, then you have these relationships ready for you to already be running as a full and open competitor, as a total small business competitor before you ever graduate. Hopefully that makes sense there. You want to be building these relationships out there. One last thing I'll say, and I'll pause on this, and if you've got questions, go ahead and ask me. But one last thing I will say is that to too many of us, when we're in the 8A program and you're thinking about graduation, we don't look at the 3 ways to make money in the federal government. There are 3 ways. You can subcontract under a small, you can prime contract, and you can subcontract under a large. From day one of the 9-year journey through the 8A program, you should have a plan for revenue from all 3 of those spots. And so your 8A contract dollars really are coming from being a prime contractor. They are not coming from working for a large as a subcontractor, because that is just commercial business. And if you don't know this, the large prime contractor has the contract with the government. You don't. So when you sub under them, even though you're supporting the Army, let's say, that's still just basically commercial business. That does not count against you when you're in the 8A program. So you want to build a business as a subcontractor under a large when you're ready. And certainly you want to find other smalls that are doing $5, $10, $20, $30 million and subcontract with them so that you're subcontracting under them. When you do that and you come out of the 8A program, you're not solely dependent on those prime 8A contracts. You've got these other 2 rails, subbing under a small and subbing under a large, that will make sure you keep going. And the prime contracting, if you have done what I said about really good past performances related to each other, that will be able to go into the that will be able to continue. You'll just have to compete, but you'll have gotten good at competing. Okay, so that was hopefully that was a good answer that was able to help you. Let me know if you have more clarification on that. Let me take a quick water here. Okay, I'm just going to look really quick at some of the questions that are in chat, and then I'm going to get back on a couple other things I want to share, and we'll just see how much time I get in there. So, okay, so let's take these. Oh, hey, thanks, Anthony. He wrote a chat, and then he's like, oh, I forgot the question. Let me put the word question in there. How should small businesses obtain past performance? Can you talk about simplified acquisition? There's nothing simple about simplified acquisition and other small business purchase opportunities. Let me tackle the back part of that. I know what you're saying. I was saying the same thing, but the way you shape the question is, to me, the man holding us down or something. It's like the largest put us in our place. Oh, simplified acquisition or small business purchasing opportunities. There are really no small business purchasing opportunities. The simplified acquisition that Anthony's talking about, just for everybody, it basically says, and I can't remember what number we're at now, but let's say it's 250,000 and below. It might be 350 now, but 250,000 and below, it's supposed to be set aside for small. Well, that just doesn't happen all the time. It depends on where that opportunity is coming out, et cetera. The second thing about it is simplified acquisition literally is supposed to mean just that. It means, hey, let's make it a 1-page, 2-page, and we acquire your services for 250,000. But that often doesn't happen. Often the government sits there and makes you jump through the same hoops as you would for a big one. There's a line in sales, in particularly with consultative sales, which is what government contracting primarily is. It's just as hard to get a $10 million contract as a $100,000 contract if you have the past performance, right? If you're qualified for either one, it's just as easy to get a $10 million contract because they ask for the same things. What's your technical approach? What's your management approach? Have you been paid for this before? That's basically what every customer wants to know from every vendor. And that's what every federal buyer wants to know. And so at the simplified acquisition level, that's the same thing. The other reason I kind of don't like the idea of saying this small business stuff is because it's as if people are trying to put us in a certain spot. Simplified acquisition is not out there in any kind of easy way to understand. Not a single buyer within a single agency does it the exact same way. Generally, you will never find, hey, here's simplified acquisition. They're all over $25,000. I think that's still the limit. And if they are, they got to go in SAM. And that's what you'll hear people tell. And so I would not fixate on simplified acquisition because that's not sales. That's not building a business. I'll come back and tell you why. The second thing is other small business purchase opportunities. I'm assuming what Anthony is talking about here is credit card purchases or maybe marketplace, which is basically the same thing. those are not small business purchasing opportunities. Those are just business purchasing opportunities. And if a small can get in there and win it, that's great. Sometimes federal buyers put out small business set-asides, et cetera, and that goes in. But those are separate things. What I wish I had from Anthony as I'm answering the first question is, what do you sell? And I feel bad, Anthony, because I should know this, but 1,000 people. But the more important answer to how should small businesses gain past performance is what you sell related to what they need, not how they buy. So simplified acquisition is only how they buy. It has nothing at all to do with the actual buyer, right? In the government, the contracting officer, a lot of people go, that's the buyer. Well, yes, they are the focus of power and they're the ones that sign the contract, but they're not the ones buying it. The person buying it is the person using it. So in the IT shop, they're the ones buying servers. It just happens to be they're going to the contracting office and they're talking to them and they do all the negotiation. But the actual buyer is the person who needs it. If they didn't need it, then the contracting officer wouldn't do anything. They're like, I'm not just buying servers for the heck of it. So they're more of an enabler to help these people get what they need, a middleman, if you will. Don't tell the KOs I'm calling them middleman. Anyways, what you need to do is to go, and I keep going back to focus, right? You need to have a focused offer. When you have a focused offer, then you spend a few minutes on a whiteboard. Oh, I didn't realize my kid had drawn a little thing there. That's funny. When you have a solution and a focused offer, a clear focused offer about this is what we sell, then you start thinking about the problems that your solution has. And then you start getting in and talking to teammates, other government contractors, and federal buyers about those problems to identify opportunities that relate to those problems that your solution can solve. And so, that's fundamental to sales. You were saying, how should small businesses obtain past performance? Literally, I would start there. Again, it comes back to, and I'm waiting to see if it comes into the chat, but what you sell. So let's say right now, I'll give you a really good example. I started a company called Nancy Co. last year to be able to demonstrate how you can make $1 million as a brand new government contractor in 1 year. Now, I get a little thrown off track because of the Doge thing and because I had too many things on my plate. I just couldn't go through with it. But I'm restarting that, so I have the same window, a little less time. But what I'm going to sell is AI. In particular, AI is pretty big. So in particular, what I'm talking about is basically mini AI business solutions that could be used in the 10 to 30 person office within a federal agency. So you think about there's many, many different offices, this program office, that one. And so this would be kind of a ramp up to do this, but that's what I'm selling. And so how do I get past performance doing that? Well, 100%, $0 to $1 million, I'm doing that in subcontracting. So what I'm doing is going out and finding small businesses who are inside of the federal agencies already. And I'm going to find ones that are willing to talk with me. I'll put something out like, hey, I'm really experienced at AI. I've done subcontracting, but I want to do it as sub. I'm actually not going to use my face or my name. I want to show how to build that company without any experience. And so that's why I called it Nancy Co. My wife's name is Nancy. And so I will just tell somebody what to do and they will execute. So that way I can show everybody, hey, look, this person did all the execution. I just gave them the process and now you can follow the same process. But anyways, I will go to a small business who's in that kind of space and say, this is what we do. You already have the customers and we bring the AI expertise. Would you be willing to go back and talk with them? It's a bigger thing that I'll talk to you, but that's how I would get past performance is start getting subcontracting past performances with smalls that will allow you to build those past performances that you can, and I would do that for 3 years, by the way. If you're just starting, 3 years of subcontracting, that's normal in the federal market. Do that. You will build relationships. You will get relatable past performances, and you will be able to go after prime contracts that are in the millions. Okay, so looking at a couple of quick questions here. How should I? Annette, so to be clear, whoa, I lost Annette. Actually, can I do this? Good. So to be clear, after you graduate from 8A, they keep you in the system and can't recompete with another contract. Sorry, Annette. No, it's, you're not confused. I didn't explain it well. So the 8A program, when you graduate in the 9th year, at the end of your 8A program, and you graduate, you can no longer compete on any 8A contracts that are normal 8A contracts. Now, let me tell you a couple of exceptions. If you have a contract vehicle that allows it, like, for example, 8A Stars 3, and they allow you to keep competing, you can. They're actually kind of changing that, where they say you can get a 5-year contract on that vehicle on the second to last day of your 8A time and keep the 5 years, but you cannot go after new task orders. What I'm saying about, they keep you in the system. They don't keep you in the system. They keep the contract you won. So if you won an 8A contract, let's just say it was an 8A sole source contract, normal sole source contract. Let's say you got it on GSA contract vehicle. If you won it in year 5 and you got a 5-year contract, well, you're an 8A for the first base and 3 option years. And then you still have that 1 year that after you graduate, you will have that option year that they have to approve or not approve. Well, they'll probably approve that. But then after that option year is done, a normal contract like that, 5 years, is recompeted. That recompete generally stays in the in the 8A program. So it goes to another 8A. Personally, I think it's the silliest thing in the world, because you help a business grow and then you take their contracts away. But that's how it works. So you can compete with all sorts of contracts. You just, after you graduate, you can no longer compete on 8A contracts. Okay, so let me close this. Company was previous 8A, so agree afterlife is important strategy. Yes. So, Frederick, I don't know if you're asking a question there. Processes for debrief and open record proceed improvement to better future proposals. Maybe. Yes, another day. And Frederick, if you don't mind shooting me a direct message and just writing out what you're talking about. Because on the debrief, I'm very familiar with what I think you're talking about. And on the CPAR stuff, it's that part in the middle I just want to get clarity. Oh, I didn't realize it wasn't at the bottom there. Sorry, Anthony, I didn't realize we're at the bottom. You were below the fold. Sorry. But now that I see what you have here, it's 100%. By the way, if you're, depending on where, Anthony, your company is, when I look and I see our background is with Cisco IT products and solutions, depending on how big you are, I would lean massively into that, because you can ride the Cisco wave. You can find anywhere that Cisco products were sold into federal agencies and use that as a way to reach out and go, well, who's doing the services? Who's doing the solutions? Like, it's an easy way to do it. And if there's enough Cisco products still being sold and used within the government, lean into it. I don't know if, if you're talking about switches and all that kind of stuff, I'm assuming that's there forever. But it also might be owned by Verizon or somebody. And then the last one I'm reading here, and then I'm going to go to my last topic, is thank you for sharing you're welcome. Small business should go directly. Okay. Did I pull it up? Okay. I recently spoke with a consultant who stated small businesses with no past performance should and could go directly as a prime. What are your thoughts on this, starting as a woman? Tell me what you sell, Danielle. So the question on the table is small businesses just starting out should or could go into prime. Let's take could. Yep, you absolutely can. That's one of my favorite things. Can you? Yeah, you can. Should you? No. So let me give you easy things as you go forward with this. And Danielle, let's see what you sell. If you sell services, no, don't prime. It's just a flat rule. And if you sell products, then feel free to prime. And here's the difference. When you sell products, you're almost never selling your products. And the government is almost always buying something that they get and it's done. When you sell services, for example, when I say I'm going to give you a laptop, I'm going to sell you a laptop. That's one and done. I hand you the laptop, it's done. You got the laptop, right? When and let's forget about whether it works or not. That's warranty and other stuff. But you bought a laptop. I gave you a finished product. That's what you're buying, is a finished product. When you buy a service, then, for example, let's say lawn care for a year, or snow removal, or cybersecurity services. When you buy that service, it's ongoing. And so there's almost no risk to the government when they buy a product, because they don't pay you until they receive it and make sure it's working. So if they bought a new laptop computer, they turn it on. Does it work? Yeah, it works. Okay, we're good. Right. And they probably do like net 15 or something. It's on them on whether they open it. But if it doesn't work 30 days later, they just come back because you got a warranty. They won't buy it without a warranty. So products are very, very low risk. That's why the government is totally willing to buy from smalls with as a prime, right? Coming in, brand new company doing priming. I still would encourage you to try to team up with other people selling products so you can learn the ropes, because simple little things like when you send that laptop to the government, if you mislabeled the laptop and it sits on a loading dock and the government goes, we never received it. And you're like, man, I just paid Dell for the computer that I was sending to the government, and the government was going to pay me and all this kind of stuff. And so when you team up with somebody else who is doing what you want to do, that is never a bad thing. So absolutely, you could prime contract on products. And I'm kind of okay with the should part as well. If you know what you're doing, if you don't know what you're doing, sub a little bit. Like for example, I have tons of government contracting experience. If I started a product business right now, I'd instantly prime. But if I started a service-based business, I would again go right back in and warm myself up, because I'm still making the money that I expect. Subcontracting money and prime money is the exact same. If you manage your money correctly. The second thing, and I'm trying to find services for VA and DOD. Yeah, but you didn't tell me what service. But coming back to, let's just leave it as services. No small business who's just getting started should ever prime. We all do that silly thing. We all think to ourselves, the government's got all this money, and we go in, we all can do it. I can write a proposal. But the problem is we all have demonstrated it doesn't work. And it comes back to why. The Department of Defense its mission is warfare. People's lives are literally on the line. The Department of Veterans Affairs, its mission is taking care of the veterans, including, for example, a big portion of it being veteran healthcare. So the people's lives are literally on the line. No matter what service you provide, there's a big risk factor. It goes up much higher. And so when the government looks at you, it makes it so much harder to sell to somebody who sees you at a big high risk. And so you'll find far less opportunities you can ever win. Plus, you don't have any past performance to demonstrate that you have done work at this level, have worked with departments like theirs, understand how to build them, understand their policies, their standard operating procedures. There's all these things that go into it that if instead a small business who's just getting started says, you know what, I'm going to leave all the administrative nightmare to the prime contractor, and I'm going to sell my SharePoint services as a subcontractor under the prime. I'm going to charge them $100 an hour. They're going to charge the government $110 an hour. Everybody's happy. And as I go along, I'm going to learn from that prime. Otherwise, I'm not going to work with them, right? I want primes that I can learn from. I'm going to learn from that prime. How do I bill? How do I have monthly reporting with the customer? How do I find more work? How do you write proposals? Because I'm going to team with them and say, hey, can I be part of your proposal writing exercise? It's not just going to AI. It's thinking about how do you win? And if you get the right teaming partner as a prime, they can mentor you. Even unofficial mentoring is so valuable. So I would say, no, you want to subcontract out there. Okay, so I think I got that there. I think I answered the questions. I do want to tackle one last topic, and I got like 20 minutes here, but I wanted to tackle this one topic, especially be good for those of you who are new or trying to sell. But I have somebody who was in training yesterday. I can't remember if she's in here today or she's watching the replay. But let me pull up her capability statement because she gave me permission to do this. I want to pull up her capability statement because what I was helping with afterwards, I was telling everybody, and I think I said this almost every day this week, you've got to focus, you got to focus. And she was like, well, focus how? Focus on what? Like what, right? So where would this be? Sorry, give me a second. Good, got it. Let me save. Sorry, give me 2 seconds here. Just gotta save it and then open it. Come on. It's like I feel bad about dead time on these things, but I'm bringing up a capability statement we can look at. I think this is the one. This is the one. Okay, so where are you? There you are, coming back. Okay, so let me share my screen here really quick. I think I got the right one. Okay, so what I want to share in here, I'm not going to share how capability statements should be done. You can go to my website, govconchamber.com, and in there, in one of the drop-down menus, it says capability statement. You'll see everything I talk about. So this capability statements, she knows I like her and I want to help her, but so this is no good. It's just too many words going down, and it's 2 pages, right? And so that's no good. And on my website, you can see how I suggest she lay it out. But the question I wanted to answer or help her answer is, what do I sell? She's brand new, one person, woman-owned small business. And it's funny, after I had this conversation with her, I already did some of this thinking. I already thought of somebody I can introduce her to who's much farther along, doing about 5 million, who would value, they want to kind of get into what she does. And they would value working. They're all nice people. And because I was able to think about a focused offer, I instantly thought about who I could refer her to. And that's what you want to be thinking about, is how do I make it easier for people to refer me internal within an agency or to other contractors, et cetera. Okay, so what I was asking her is, what do you sell? She's a one-person shop. She's got a lot of personal experience, like I do as an engineer, et cetera. But I was reading in here, and she was saying IT development, testing, and training. That's what she actually put in the chat yesterday. And I was like, well, that's too many things, right? Tell me what you actually sell. Hold on, let's see. Get some water here. I have a 5-gallon jug I blow through constantly. Okay, so inside of here, she said that, and I was trying to help her have, what's the one thing you sell? And as I looked through this, there's a lot of good stuff she was doing. She does custom IT development, business process automation, software testing itself, project management, so agile and waterfall project management. I'm looking at this stuff, and it's like, well, it's just too many things. You're selling too many things, and I don't really even need to go farther down. If I just stay with here, and I was trying to think to myself, well, what would I advise her? And I reached out and I said, well, AI is a massive, big trend. You must be thinking about AI. I mean, are you in there? You don't have it on here at all. And she got back. She's like, oh, no, 100%. It's like, that's where we're going. That's where the future is. And all AI is, if you don't know this, and I'm going to simplify it again, all AI is custom IT development. All AI is business process automation. It's testing. It's project management, thinking about a project, planning it out, and then delivering it, kind of thing. It's end-to-end user and admin training in there. It's these things she's talking about. And when she came back with that, and what I suggested to her is that what you should think about, instead of, and let me see if I can bounce this window a little bit. So I put me back. So these core competencies that are in there, hide that because that's distracting me. Okay, so these core competencies that she has, what I was thinking about these all mean she's very technically competent and experienced, right? So competency is the skill, and experience is I've done it and been paid for it before. So she's got those solid. And if she goes in as an AI expert, whatever that means, right? Then what I would recommend she does is really figure out, remember I said that I do Microsoft SharePoint, was my last company. You need to have a line like that. And so she needs to have a line that's similar to that. And when she says, I do, let's call it AI software development. It's not the best title for the moment. Actually, I would change it to something like, AI execution or something. And I got to come back to that. And the reason I'm saying it is I want a top level word that basically says, we do artificial intelligence and machine learning. And that can mean anything you want. And then what I was suggesting to her is that below that, you have subordinate bullets or sub-competencies to that AI one. And that those subordinate ones would be these core competencies she has at the moment. So she would say her core competency is artificial intelligence. Let's just leave it at that. Specializing in instead of application development, she might sit there and say AI agent development, because now when you build software, it's it's to do something, right? And so now in AI, we build agents so the agents can do something. That's kind of like process automation in there. And so, anyways, so agent development, she might throw a couple others in. The next thing I would definitely have her putting in as this AI expert is business process improvement, not automation. Automation is the old way of saying something. Ironically, what we're doing with AI nowadays is basically business process automation. But I want her to say business process improvement, because when she's talking with her customers, they're not generally IT people, they're business people. And they think to themselves, I need to improve my processes, not with technology. I just need to constantly be doing process improvement. That's a normal part of running your business. And so for her, I would say that should be another big one. Software testing, quality assurance, et cetera. That just goes with the first bullet of agent development. And then the other one she has down here is the training side of it. I would lean in heavily to say that she can do AI software development, or excuse me, AI training. In the training, if I go back for a second, I don't know if, let me go ahead and stop sharing this. I don't know if you know this, but I was talking about it a few days ago, but in the Department of Defense, they have a huge initiative around AI, and it's called GenAI.mil. And in there are where some of these major AI tools like Gemini or Grok, and in the future, a couple of others are going to be added in there. They're in there available to every single person, 3 million people within DoD. Yet, I would bet 90% of the people have no clue how to use it, no comfort using it. They're afraid of it, but they could absolutely benefit from it. So if she is going in talking about AI in a way that is softly addressing adoption and training, like user acceptance, you already have the tools in the DoD or DOW. I can come in and help you use those tools, and I can come in and help your staff begin to understand not to build the biggest, fanciest solution with AI, but to how do you save 1 hour a week? How do you look at whatever you do and decide what might be the easiest low-hanging fruit for AI? And inside the DOW, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, is demanding this of everybody, and he's pushing hard. And so that's a way to take what she has with all those core competencies and shape it around what she's still good at and what the DoD is asking for. Separately, inside of GSA, they're doing something similar where they're standing up a whole AI, let's call it AI platform, where civilian agencies can get access to all these different tools. And so somebody needs to help the government go in and lean on that. And so what I told her is you need to reshape your capability statement so that it screams, I can help you implement AI solutions that will help you execute the mission faster, something like that, right? I don't need to be perfect about the word, but when you do that, it makes it so easy for people to see it. One last thing I will say is that people are often afraid of being that focused down and saying, hey, I do AI agent development or something, whatever it is, right? When they focus down, they're afraid of losing out on, well, what about this other IT training that might be out there or help desk that she had on there? Well, first off, that's not the future. So that's not even the business you want. Second off, when you say I do too many things, no one sees you or remembers you. But if people start going, oh, she's the AI lady and she's talking to many different small businesses, and they're like, when I have an AI question, I'm calling her. She is establishing herself, and she can do that really in the next 4 weeks, right? Take a week to shape the capability statements of what I just said. Take a week to build a target list of 100 small businesses to reach out to because she's new, so she doesn't need to prime. And then take 2 weeks to have meetings with these people. She will establish relationships that will get her in the door, being able to talk to her teaming partners, customers, making them look good, giving her potential access to revenue growth, and helping the agency, the federal buyer, be able to start moving towards where they need to go. Hopefully that made sense. I really try to push forward on this idea of leaning in, et cetera, on the focus. So if you have questions about that, I know that's one of the tough ones for people. By the way, that is step number one that I tell people. When you're starting a business, don't go register an LLC or anything else. Do what I just said was the 4 weeks that she would do, then form a company. For the first 4 weeks, she can be a 1099. It takes 1 day to form a company. That's not the hard part. that's constructive procrastination. What you need to do is figure out, can you determine what you sell, that AI stuff, and can you find interested people who will work with you? If you can't do that, then having a company is not going to make you miraculously sell or build relationships. Okay, so let me look just last. It's funny, Anthony, I'm trying to read the question here. Glad you're speaking about this. So what's your recommendation as basic steps to get into government space? Is there a step-by-step guide to getting into the small, getting into from small opportunities to large? It's funny, I see a lot of guides and I've never seen one that I like out there. Like, here's the 10 steps to get started. Even the SBA and DOW put it out, all sorts of consultants will put it out. But they all say things like register in SAM or whatever. It's like, no, the steps are loosely what I was saying there. But literally the steps I teach, Anthony, if I just do it from memory for a second, is figure out your clear focused offer, a very niched down thing you sell. Be remembered for one single thing. That's step one. Step two, especially you're starting from scratch. Step two is find small businesses who are willing to talk with you and then begin to work with you around your expertise. They go, hey, I like your expertise. We don't really have that, so come on in. That's step two. Step three is do all the company formation stuff. Step four is start getting subcontracts under small businesses. And you are asking, how do you go from small to large? Get subcontracts under small businesses in one focused area or agency if you want to go to a large. So if I wanted to go to, let's say, Booz Allen or Leidos or Accenture or somebody, then I would be looking in, if I have a clearance and things, I would look in the Army. If I didn't, I would look in either HHS or in DHS. I would pick one of those and I would just stay in there the whole time, so that when I go knocking on their door, first off, they already know who I am because I've been just saying hi for a year or two. But when I go in to go to a large, the first thing I would do is be landing prime contracts myself. So sub under a small for a year or two, get prime contracts, then go after a large. No large really wants to work with small businesses who don't bring a lot of value. I'll give you a quick explanation of this. I have one customer that picked up a $70 million subcontract with a large prime. And they did that after building $10 million in subcontracting revenue, including some of that being with the large. And then when the large went after a contract, they knew they could trust them. They had worked with them a little bit through years. And then they brought them in. I have another customer who had won a $250 million contract, small business. They just graduated with this win. And they went from the typical side, zero, one guy in there, the owner of the company, built it up to 5 million, started doing some business with tight within one major defense command that touched a lot of services. Anyways, then they won like a $10 million contract. Then they got 3 different billion-dollar companies who joined their team, and they won a $175 million contract. That was the first contract that they won, then the $250 million contract. But all of this takes time, building experience within the government contracting space. When we change up how we do it, we take longer to get there. But if we say I'm doubling down on building relationships with 8 strategic small businesses who can grow my company to $10 million, then I'm going to be priming, and then I'm going to keep those relationships going in that revenue, and then I'm going to try to get to $10 million in prime contracting. Then I'm going to be turning to the largest. If I turn to the largest before then I'm not seeing the real value of a large. A large takes you to 100 million or beyond. And so smalls take you to the 10, 20, $30 million range. Hopefully that answered that question for you. I know it's like a quick answer for a very big question. Looking in here, Annette, how do I find a prime who works? Sorry, I should put this up here. So how do I find a prime who works with what we have to offer? The first thing you have to do to find a prime like that is you have to figure out what you sell and what's related to what you sell. So an example is one type of contractor, and I kind of know what Annette sells in the UV disinfection space, let's say. Well, one type of company that might be an ideal one is somebody who lands construction contracts to build out, to refurbish buildings or to build things out. An example is the Coast Guard has got billions of extra dollars. If you don't know this, everybody, Coast Guard has an annual budget of about 1.2 billion. Right now, they've got 24 extra billion dollars, and billions of that is going to refurbishing all of their bases, right? And so I would be looking into those, trying to find who are the companies going after construction projects. Is the lighting and fixture and things like that where you might fit, or the HVACs where that might fit? Are those part of bigger contracts? And I would be reaching out into those type of companies that are doing it. And in the Coast Guard, as an example, they do a lot of industry days. And so you want to be finding out who's doing industry days and reach out to them to see if they'll introduce you to anybody. Sometimes they have attendee lists, and so you can follow up with that, et cetera. But how do I find people who primes who work around what we offer? You have to know what related services are to what you offer, and then go into SAM or FPDS and do searches on that. Keyword searches, NAICS code searches. It takes a little time to get in there doing it, but you begin to find them. Okay, rocking and rolling. Appreciate the enthusiasm. Thanks, Melvin. Appreciate that. I think I'm going to come back and do again. I'm doubling down on this idea that I really want to help people get to their first 100,000 and first million, and not really care about like the rest. Because if I can help you get a repeatable process to get 100,000 or $1 million in revenue inside of a year, for example, then if you just follow that process, you can get yourself to $1 million or 5 million or 10 million or whatever. And so I really want to double down on like things like the capability statement. Why does it exist? How do you use it? How does somebody read it? And how do you prove out that it works for you? Okay. Are we getting into, let me just see what this one is really quick. As we're getting GovCon. Okay. So we're running down to the wire here with a couple of questions. I got a couple of minutes. I'll stay. As we're getting GovCon, what would you recommend for use for research tools for data analysis, order review, current vendor agency? Is there a process that streamlines, makes it easy? Yes, have meetings. So the question was, is there a process that makes it easier for us to? So what I would encourage you to do is not do much research. It depends on where you're at, but if you're making less than $1 million, don't do a ton of research at the moment. You need to have more meetings, right? I describe the 7-step process for getting into an agency, and that's a mature process. It has a lot of research, understanding an agency. But if you're just getting started, you're actually earlier than that phase. What you want to do is get good at selling yourself to other small businesses that are doing $5 to $20 million, right? Companies that are doing that range, the owner of the company is still probably very actively involved. They remember what it was like to be you. So when you have that as your target customer, then what you're trying to sell them is you. And we often try to follow billion-dollar processes, or these companies that have been around 10 years and doing stuff. We try to do what they do. It's like, well, that's not going to get you where they're at, because they had to do the hard scraping early on. What I'm telling you is that if you start by just going into DSBS, for example, go to dsbs.sba.gov. And if you know, like for me, I sold Microsoft SharePoint services. I know most people who say they do Microsoft don't actually do it. So what I did is a search on Microsoft SharePoint, or just SharePoint within dsbs.sba.gov, which is now a new tool. Anyways, when I did that, I got several hundred companies that came up, and then I used a little criteria to whittle it down. I reached out to 57 of them when I started my last company. And by the way, this wasn't the last company that I ran as SharePoint. I was starting another one, another story. But I reached out to 57, and I sent a simple email. I said, look, I'm starting a new company. We are experts at Microsoft SharePoint. We have extensive experience, but not so much in government contracting. And I'd love to talk to you about maybe teaming up with you for a couple of 2-3 years as a subcontractor, where we can help you with your customers and we can get experience as a new government contractor. Would you be open to a conversation? I reached out to, I think 57, 27 or so got back to me, and 5 of them were solid. Yes, sounds great. We don't do that really. And I mean, all of them were nice, by the way. Just 5 were good hits because they're like, yeah, we don't really do SharePoint. We have it on there, but we don't do it. Happy to talk to you about going after opportunities, even some of the ones we have in our pipeline. So now you're off to the races. So Anthony, going back to the point, I would build those relationships with smalls that are doing 5 to 20 million, not smalls that are below that, because the ones that are below that are basically you, even if you're not making any revenue. They're still trying to figure it out. Let me look really quick. If you're a third-party distributor, actually, if you're selling products like plastic lumber benches, etc., reach out to a guy named William Randolph. So write that name down, William Randolph. And he's kind of like me, except for he's never been a government contractor. He's a government employee who became a contracting officer who he focuses on the product sale type area much more, and the simplified purchase. He'll be able to give you really good guidance on that. Okay, and I think we're good. I'm going to wrap up focusing on the Coast Guard this year. Brett, let's definitely talk, because I'm focusing on building very strong relationships. I'm trying to do a 3-day summit. I got a meeting next week to lock it in. Okay, so we're going to wrap up. I will see you tomorrow. If you're here, thanks for joining.